It's not a joke.
David Fravor is a retired naval aviator and one of the pilots involved in what is now called the Tic Tac incident off the coast of San Diego in 2004. He described the technology behind the object as an existential threat to the survival of the United States.
The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had, and you could put that anywhere. If you had one, you captured one, you reverse engineered it, you got it to work, you're talking something that can go into space, go someplace, drop down in a matter of seconds, do whatever it wants, and leave, and there's nothing we can do about it.
UFOs, UAPs. What is your take on this issue? I'm familiar with alien intrusion. I love the documentary you guys made. Phenomenal. I've watched it multiple times and working my way through your book. What's your understanding of these encounters?
Well, we approach all things in life through our lens or filter, our worldviews. So I suppose there are three main ways that people interpret UAPs, for example. They see something in the sky. The true UFO believer, this is somebody that really believes aliens are out there and they're visiting the Earth, which, by the way, accounts for about 70% of Americans, according to a CNN poll back in the late 90s. We have an article on our website if people want to type in the search engine on creation.com. Just type in scientific or UFOs, scientific religion, the article will come up. But the true believer, he wants to interpret every sighting or every bit of phenomena as real aliens trying to visit us. That's what he's going to try to do. Then you have the Christian. And you have some Christians that try to spiritualize every single event. Oh, well, it must be demonic or it's spiritual. There's a wiser third approach. And in a way, I kind of take, even though I'm a Christian and I do have a spiritual take on it, I use a more skeptical approach. So the skeptic, that when I say a skeptic, that's probably someone who's more atheistic in their beliefs. They believe in a Big Bang. They don't believe in God. They would say, to start with, they're very, very heavily focused on science, that they'd say, well, it's impossible for aliens to travel millions of light years to get here. So it has to be explained as something else. Now, they won't go to the spiritual. They'll say it'll be psychological. It'll be some strange weather anomaly or phenomenon that we don't understand. So I kind of start there, and I only come to a spiritual conclusion when the actual evidence itself demands it. Okay. The simple fact is about 90% of these sightings can always be explained, right? So in the US, we've got an organization called MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and they're the world's largest clearinghouse for investigating UFO reports. So somebody rings up and they say, I saw this light going across the sky. You know, it was about 9:30 at night. I was looking out this way, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll say, okay, we'll investigate it. And then they happen to work out the International Space Station happened to be going overhead at that time, because you can see it sometimes on a clear night with the moon in the right direction. But there are sightings, and the government is now talking about some of these that defy any naturalistic explanation. We have things like lenticular clouds that are saucer-shaped. You can get things like ball lightning. Flocks of birds. In fact, would you believe the most mistaken common UFO, Eric, is the planet Venus? Really? Venus doesn't twinkle like a star, but early in the night sky, it can go up there and it looks really, really bright, you know, and almost as if it's glowing.
Right.
But why do people mistaken that as a UFO? Because of science fiction movies, conditioning, reports,
yes.
You know, all this type of stuff. Say, oh, it might be a UFO. But having said that, that can explain about 90% of it. There is a small percentage that defy naturalistic interpretations. We see sometimes on radar craft flying at incredible speeds, merging into one another, becoming one object and doing a right angle turn and going off in the other direction. In my book, I've got descriptions, a first-hand testimony from a guy in Australia. He and his brother saw it accelerate to the ground and then go back up. Now, you know, we can't fly at those speeds in our man-made craft here on Earth. We can't do right angle turns at thousands of miles per hour. You would be splattered. Right. You know, now on the Enterprise, Captain Jean-Luc Picard says, "Make it so," and they exert millions of G's upon the occupants of the craft, but they have these science fiction devices called inertial dampeners to avoid all that. But that's science fiction. And people sometimes say, well, Gary, in the future, these aliens could have developed this incredible technology. I'm sorry, it's not a matter of advanced technology. And I'm going to stick a line in the sand here. You cannot fly at faster than the speed of light within our physical universe. So, the nearest star system to the Earth, the nearest galaxy to our own Milky Way is 2 million light years away. So if you could even fly at the speed of light, it would take you 2 million years to get here. Our own Milky Way galaxy is 100,000 light years across. If you could travel at the speed of light, 100,000 years to get here from, one of these distant planets or whatever's out there. So there are physical problems, The Hubble Space Telescope gets bombarded with lots of cosmic dust that puts marks on it. And the faster you travel, you've got to try to deflect these objects. And that just increases the power problems on the ship, etc. Accelerating even small objects to half the speed of, imagine I had something like a softball, accelerating that to just even 50% the speed of light would take the energy equivalents of 98 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs.
Wow.
Just something that size. And then to slow it down when I get to my journey, I've got to use the same, because in the vacuum of space, once I attain that speed, I'll keep going. When I get there, I've got to have the same energy requirements to slow myself down. And then the return trips, speed up, get to the Earth, slow down. So 4 times the energy requirements. So when you're seeing these massive ships in science fiction movies, etc., and it's hard for people to understand, because yes, our technology does develop, it does advance,
right?
But there are physical limitations to be able to travel faster than the speed of light, and the energy requirements to even do it are, well, not even fathomable at this stage, Right.
So what you're saying is a force field wouldn't cut the mustard as far as traveling light speed.
No, yeah, you can have a force field, but if you're approaching an object, you've got to use the equal amount of force to repel it. So that's double those energy requirements, and then that's just adding to the already mind-boggling energy requirements you need to propel the craft, etc. That's why you see things like inertial dampeners and deflector arrays, because they overcome all those sorts of problems. If people go to creation.com and type in G-forces, etc., there's a great article by a PhD chemist, Dr. Jonathan Sarfati, that tells you if you were on the craft and you could even attain the speed of light, you actually have to take several years to slow down to avoid you being smashed into the craft. When you see on Star Trek and they jump into warp factor 9 and they just stop like this, I mean, it's and science fiction writers will tell you, early science fiction writers, the greatest problem they have in dreaming up all these exotic worlds was the distance travel problem, how to overcome it, etc. So all of those things are, yes, they're science fiction inventions. People are thinking about wormholes, and again, they don't work, because what is a wormhole? Well, it's probably, a force that's been created by the gravitational collapse of a star. So you have something the size of a sun that's maybe collapsed into nothing bigger than maybe the size of a soccer ball, but it still has the same density and the same mass and the same gravity. So the black hole, what they theorize, is the gravity is so strong that it's actually sucking in light. It's bending space in. So if you tried to go through a wormhole, how are you going to get out the other side? Because the massive gravitational forces are just going to crush you into something the size of a pinhead or something like that. And I'm talking about, that's your spaceship, not just individuals.
Right. Like much worse than what the people who are going to check out the Titanic, when you talk about all the gravity that caved in on them, they said most people, or most of the news articles that I read or videos I watched, said they probably didn't even feel it. It was just that quick and that.
Yeah, they certainly wouldn't have known much about it. So this then begs the question. I'm saying it's impossible for beings from distant galaxies or star systems to actually get here. So there used to be something called the extraterrestrial hypothesis. When I first started investigating, that was the most popular, that somehow they are traveling across the bounds of space to get here. But in all my years of researching this, the most popular view is now called the interdimensional hypothesis. And that is, these aliens are not visiting us from distant planets or a galaxy far, far away. They're actually visiting us from another realm or dimension.
That's interesting.
And that's the most popular view amongst serious ufologists today, because they realize the impossible logistics of interstellar space travel. And the fact is, there's about 150 UFO sightings every day, around the world. And as I said, about 90% can be explained. But we've never, ever seen, in all the documented sightings, we've never seen any craft or object enter our atmosphere from outside. Whenever they appear, they're here. They just appear and they disappear. So having said all that, I'm not saying that these strange anomalous objects don't appear. They do. And that's what I'm saying, is that there's a small percentage that defy naturalistic explanation. So if they're not coming from far, far away, they appear, they disappear, it would suggest they are coming from another realm or dimension. And of course, that's what I believe. The non-Christian ufologist, he and I will agree about the nature of the phenomenon now, that it's probably interdimensional. What we'll disagree about is its origins. He'll say that there might be multi-universes or something like this.
Right.
Well, Eric, the Bible has always said there is another realm or dimension. You call it the spirit realm or the spiritual realm, etc. So that is where I believe these anomalous ones, that is where I believe that they're manifesting from. And as you've seen the movie, some of the leading movers and shakers, including John Mack, he was interviewed. He's a former professor of Harvard Medical School. You can watch an interview, a clip of an interview, in fact, on YouTube with Jeffrey Mishlove, another PhD. And John Mack he's a psychologist, and he started investigating them because he realized that all of these abductees had similar stories. And he thought, well, it can't be imagination, it can't be lies, they're suffering post-traumatic stress, and the only thing that could do this was real experience. And he, even as a non-believer, with an atheistic worldview, turns around and actually uses the words, these are spirit beings coming from another realm or dimension. And he's spot on.